The rich keep getting richer, and the poor keep getting poorer. But what if I told you that's not actually a good or bad thing? It's only something that you can prepare for. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about rising inequality, and in particular, how you can prepare yourself and your family to be in the best possible position for this likely outcome. Ron from Ronald Rohde Law. I'm a commercial real estate attorney here in Dallas, Texas. And this channel, I talk a lot about how to invest in commercial real estate. Now, specifically industrial real estate, because that's an asset class I know. But the topic of this video is going to talk about inequality and why it is critical for you to get on a path of owning assets as soon as possible. You can't stop the rich from getting richer. Every day we hear news about trillion-dollar market caps, hundreds of billions of dollars for these billionaires. Is it a problem? I don't care. I don't think it's something that I can fix. The only thing that I can control is within my own portfolio and my own investments. And that's why it's critical to start owning assets that can appreciate in value and generate income while you sleep. The first thing that you have to do is shift a mindset. And I know it's going to get a little touchy-feely, but just bear with me because I think it's a really important concept that you have to believe that you can do this. You can start to own assets which produce income while you sleep. You can generate rental income passively or not so passively, but you can generate it that you don't have to trade your time for money. Once you do that mindset, you can start saving and you can start planning to purchase specific assets. And what I mean is really start to envision what your life would be like if you owned XYZ asset. Don't worry about the money, don't worry about the financing, the legal documents. Just say, if I owned that and I had that amount of net operating income, that amount of free cash flow every year, how would my life be different? How could you better prepare for the future if you had that cash flow? And I think that's step number one. Number two, start saving money and get into that first asset. Now, everybody talks online about how to buy houses with no money down. Everybody says, do a fee, do a wholesale, maybe a joint venture, sweat equity, whatever. I think it's critical that you have to get into the game of asset ownership any way you can. Now, it's not going to be easy, and I don't believe that zero money down can actually work for commercial real estate, but you have to start somewhere. And I recommend trying to find a partner, find a mentor. Whatever you do, you've got to get into that first deal. You need a piece of that upside because if anything, over the last couple of years with inflation, with the money printing machine, with global uncertainty, it has never been more important to have your net worth in hard assets that can appreciate over time. Everything else is secondary, and that's a critical goal to get into your first deal and get a small piece. Finally, the last step is leverage. Leverage is one of the most powerful tools in the modern economy, and you have to understand it. However, debt is a very powerful tool as well as a very powerful weapon that can cripple even the wealthiest investors. Now, leverage, as I define it, is either leveraging your time, your money, or in this case for real estate, you can get very large bank loans and lever up a high loan to value ratio. Too much leverage can be dangerous if you don't have either cash flow and specifically I would say uncorrelated from real estate economy cash flow. If you have cash flow to service the debt or if you don't have sufficient reserves to pay that debt service while you are trying to reposition a property. So that could be a tenant moving out. That could be a bad economy where the tenant's not paying rent or they want to pay a reduced rent. Whatever it is, you have to be able to cover the debt service and not lose a property to foreclosure. Because when you wipe out your equity, that is a drastic setback. And I think it's Warren Buffett that has this great quote, and he says, step one, don't lose money. Step number two, see rule number one. And I think it's just a great analogy because I apply it to leverage in real estate as if you lose your equity, if you get foreclosed on or a deed in lieu and you give it back to the bank, you've lost money. Everything else, every other real estate cycle, even if you owned property or you bought at the peak in 2006, 2007, you had the 2008 recession, your value dipped below your debt amount. But if you could hold on to that property, come out on the other side, you will have made a lot of money. Now, it's not easy, and I know it's difficult in that trough period to continue to make debt service payments, to work with your lender, modifications, whatever, but you can't lose your equity because the market will come back. Real estate is cyclical. We are in a very curious time, but we are still seeing cycles no matter what. The intensity changes, the duration changes, the causes. We don't even know what the causes are except for that it feeds on itself. I think that you have to understand how to have debt and leverage over long periods of time. My final comment on leverage is kind of leveraging people and leveraging money. But you can build a team and a network of other investors so that one person can assemble a deal, and let's say you need $1 million of equity. You may not have $1 million. I can't write a $1 million check right now, but I do have people in my network that can each contribute $100,000, and collectively we can put down $1 million for this payment. That's leveraging your network, but it takes an expertise and a sophistication that you have to know what you're talking about before you take friends and family money. The entire United States economic system is built to protect people who own assets. And if you don't own assets, you are missing out on a tremendous benefit of your tax dollars. If you're not investing in real estate or other appreciating assets, you're losing money. Back to my initial point on equality, if you are not on this train, the train is leaving the station, the train is continually moving, but it is critical that you grab a rung. And I think it's something that's really important to me, because if you're listening to this video, you want to move ahead. You see all of these rising costs, you see unrest, all of these things are reasons for concern, but having assets and generating cash flow and feeling that you have some control over your future is the best thing that you can do for yourself today and for tomorrow. So tune in. This is going to be a 3-part series. This is the first video where I talk about inequality and kind of the ways to mitigate the impacts on your personal portfolio. In the next episode, I'll show you how to protect yourself from inflation and the best types of real estate assets to mitigate those impacts. But thanks for watching. Smash that like button, and we'll see you next time.